Hello everybody, welcome to Bajirao IAS Academy, the current affairs analysis session. And in today's class, we have some important international relations related current affairs. So you all knew that in the past few lectures, we have discussed about different subjects and important current affairs from those subjects. But we not yet discussed international relations. But in this lecture, we will make an attempt to discuss important international relations current affairs because this section is also very important for your upcoming prelims examination. So before going into the discussion, I have a very important announcement for you that we are going to start UPSC coaching for civil services examination in Delhi. So we would like you to attend our demo classes. So so that you could come to a conclusion that how we are actually guiding you, how we mentor you throughout your preparation. Right, so this coaching program includes, a comprehensive prelims and mains exam preparation test series. Prelims and mains examination test series would be conducted, and evaluation would be done, and one-to-one mentorship would also be provided. And to you students, a library access is also available, right? So kindly attend the demo classes that we have been conducting at our institute. And if you have any further queries, so you can contact to our WhatsApp number. You can directly call us, or you can directly come to our institute for any other inquiries. And similarly, we have been, we are going to launch uh, Arunachal Pradesh State Public Service Commission examination coaching as well as UPSC coaching in Arunachal Pradesh as well. So we are offering two different programs. One is 1 year program, and the next one is a 6 month program. And again, these two programs also offer you a comprehensive guidance, so including mentorship, particularly one-to-one mentorship. So we have been emphasizing on one-to-one mentorship so that the mentors would get to know about the shortcomings of a student, and a mentor could also help him overcome the problems or the shortcomings that he has been, or she has been facing in their respective preparation. So classes would be offered in both online and offline mode, and we are giving library access. Prelims and mains examinations are being conducted, and the students' progress is also regularly monitored and evaluated. Right. So if you have any further enquiries, so please contact to our numbers displayed here, so that you could get more and more details regarding this, and kindly attend the demo batches that we are going to start. Right. So we'll start our discussion, and the first topic is about the Darien Gap. And Darien Gap is in news in recent times. So why it is in news, where it is located, so those are things that we need to understand, right? So it's not required that we go deep into such topics, because we have been preparing for the prelims examination. So we need to prepare these topics in such a manner that we address the demand of the question, right? So when we talk about the Darien Gap, or even if you get any question on Darien Gap, it is about the illegal immigration of the people, or illegal migration of the people. So we could say from one continent to another continent, right? So most of the people who are living in Latin America or Southern America are going to the Northern America, particularly US and Canada, through this Darien Gap, right? So most of the people wanted better living conditions, right? So they wanted better healthcare, better education, better living standards. They could get a better employment. So because of that reason, people start migrating from the conflict areas, or areas where there are higher levels of poverty, where there are no infrastructure, no facilities, poor living standards. So they would start migrating from the less developed areas to the higher developed areas, and Darien Gap it provides them an opportunity to escape, or migrate from these low developed areas to a bit, you know, developed continents or countries. So Darien Gap has emerged as world's most dangerous and in fact fastest growing border crossing for illegal migration. So as I've already told you that this is especially known for illegal migration illegal migration, and in fact this route is taken when people migrate from South America to North America. So they just migrate from the South America, Latin America to North America, to countries like Mexico, US, and Canada. Now some details with respect to Darien Gap. So this Darien Gap connects Colombia, which is in the Southern America. Okay, so Colombia is a country in South American continent. So this Darien Gap connects Colombia with the Southern Panama. So Southern Panama is in Central America, right? So I would like to show you a map as well so that you could get the better clarity on this Darien Gap, and in fact it is part of Isthmus of Panama. This Darien Gap is part of Isthmus of Panama. So very often you heard about the isthmus in your geography. So what is isthmus? So isthmus is a narrow piece of land with water on each side, right? So that is a very narrow piece of land. So a narrow piece of land but water on both sides, and that is known as isthmus of or isthmus of Panama, or any other term. For example, there's an isthmus of Kra uh, across Thailand, very close to Strait of Malacca. So isthmus is a very narrow piece of land with water on each side that joins two larger pieces of land. Okay, so Isthmus of Kra generally joins two larger pieces of land, but this is a narrow piece of land. On both sides there is a water, so that is Isthmus of Kra. Okay, so in fact, when we talk about this Isthmus of Panama or this Darien Gap, it is a hot and humid area which is marked by tropical rainforests, mangrove swamps, and low mountain ranges with cloud forest vegetation, tropical mountainous regions, because it is very, very close to Amazon rainforest. And because of that reason, it is said that this Darien Gap is world's most dangerous areas, right? So however, now people have been choosing Darien Gap for illegal migration from the Southern America to the North America, to US and Canada. So on this map you can clearly see that where this Darien Gap. So you can see this is Isthmus of Panama. Okay, so this is Isthmus of Panama. So this is a narrow land mass which has been connecting two large land masses. On the southern side of Isthmus of Panama is South America, and on the northern side of Isthmus of Panama is North America, right? So North America and South America, and this Isthmus of Panama is between two large, or it is having water on each side. So this is Isthmus of Panama. Okay, so Isthmus of Panama, and you can see this is the Darien Gap that you can see here. It has been highlighted. So this is the Darien Gap. It has been connecting Colombia in South America with Panama, which is on the northern part, and Panama is part of Central America. Now, people from South America, they are just migrating through this Darien Gap, entering into Panama, and then they go further towards USA and Canada. So I hope you have understood the Darien Gap, and you can see how people have been migrating in a large numbers, right? So people usually migrate in very, very large numbers through this Darien Gap, and that is why it is a huge concern. Next is Operation Indravati. Operation Indravati is also in news in recent times. So we'll try to understand what is Operation Indravati, because the questions are framed like, so Operation Indravati is in news is related to which of the following things. So that's how questions are being asked and being framed, right? And in fact, it is a rescue operation that has been conducted by the Indian government to evacuate people from a country called Haiti. So Haiti is a country which is located, which is part of a series of Caribbean islands, right? Again, it is also very close to Panama, right? This is Panama, a Central American country. So these are all Central American countries. So Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama. So on the eastern side of the Central America, you can also see the Caribbean islands such as Cuba, Jamaica, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico. So one of the country is Haiti. So Haiti is located somewhere here. And Operation Indravati is about the evacuation of Indian citizens from, or Indian origin citizens from Haiti, because Haiti is a conflict ridden area, and because of that reason the Indian government has started Operation Indravati. So India launched Operation Indravati to evacuate nationals from Haiti to the Dominican Republic. Right? So Dominican Republic is on the eastern side of Haiti. So Indian people would be evacuated from Haiti to the Dominican Republic, which is on its eastern side. So as part of Operation Indravati, so 12 Indians were evacuated by the Indian government. It doesn't matter even if it is one Indian national, one Indian origin person who is living in the conflict areas. It is the responsibility of the government of India to evacuate those individuals and bring them to the safety, right? So as part of this responsibility, the government of India conducted Operation Indravati. And in fact, Haiti has been under a state of emergency because a group of people, armed groups have attacked country's largest prison in Port-au-Prince earlier, this year. And because of that reason, Haiti was in a state of emergency, and that's why the Indian government has started Operation Indravati. And on similar lines, Indian government before also launched a number of evacuation operations. So it is also important for us to understand what are those important evacuation operations. So in 2023, when there was a conflict between Israel and Hamas, or Israel and other terrorist organizations within the region, Indian government has carried out Operation Ajay in 2023, right? So Operation Ajay was carried out in 2023 to evacuate Indian citizens or Indian origin individuals from Israel, and that is Operation Ajay. And again in 2023 also Operation Kaveri was Operation Kaveri was launched by the Indian government to evacuate Indian origin citizens from African country called Sudan. And in this context, we come across a tribe called Hiki Hiki tribe. Okay, so a bird catching tribe from Karnataka, Hiki Piki tribe. So they were stranded in Sudan. However, Sudan, there was a civil war like a situation. So, because of that particular reason, there was a violence. And in order to evacuate Indian nationals and Indian origin individuals from Sudan, Indian government has launched Operation Kaveri. And we all knew that the Russia-Ukraine conflict. So, in the context of Russia-Ukraine conflict, government of India launched Operation Ganga again to evacuate Indian students who were stranded in Ukraine, who went to Ukraine for medical studies. And in Afghanistan also, when Taliban takes over Afghanistan, and Africa, after US withdrawal from Afghanistan, Afghanistan was taken over by Taliban. So in order to evacuate Indian nationals from Afghanistan, so the government has launched Operation Devi Shakti in 2021. So under Operation Devi Shakti, Indian origin individuals and Indian citizens were safely evacuated from Afghanistan. And again, during the COVID-19 pandemic also, Indian government has launched an attempt to bring all the Indians who were, in other countries to India, because during COVID-19 pandemic there was a complete lockdown and there was no international travel was allowed. So Indians who were living in other countries were desperate to come back to India. So because of that reason, Indian government has launched Operation Samudra Setu in the year 2020. So to bring back all the Indians who were stranded in other countries due to COVID-19 pandemic. And in 2016 also Operation Sankat Mochan, that was launched in South Sudan. In 2015 Operation Rahat. So again, that was also an evacuation attempt from Yemen. So in Yemen, still we see the unstable conditions. Very often, violence takes place, and in Yemen, there is there is a proxy militant group called Houthis, right? So Houthis are proxies of Iran, and Houthis are the Shia sect militant organization which is working in Yemen, and there is there's a kind of violence and also worst conditions which are prevalent in Yemen. So in order to rescue Indians from Yemen, Operation Rahat was also conducted. So in the year 2011, Operation Safe Homecoming was also conducted by Libya as well, from Libya as well, right? So I hope you knew about all these different operations. Operation Ganga to evacuate Indian citizens who are stranded in Ukraine, Operation Devi Shakti from Afghanistan, and Operation Vande Bharat. So Operation Vande Bharat, that was launched again in the year 2020 to bring back Indians. So Samudra Setu, the difference between Vande Bharat and Samudra Setu is that Samudra Setu was conducted by Indian Navy, right? So Indian Navy brings back Indians who were stranded in other countries, but Operation Vande Bharat, so Air India flights were used to bring back Indians from other countries, and again Operation Samudra Setu, Operation Rahat from Yemen, and also Operation Maitri as well. Okay, so Operation Maitri is specifically an operation launched in 2015. So this was a joint relief and rescue operation in the aftermath of Nepal's earthquake, right? So Operation Dost was also launched again on a similar lines like Operation Maitri, but Operation Dost is with respect to India and Turkey. I hope it is very clear for you. And the next topic is recently India and Brazil hold first 2+2 ministerial dialogue. And why it is important, why it is significant? It is important because of some reasons. So, firstly, this 2+2 dialogue is a very exclusive mechanism between India and other countries. With not all countries we have this 2+2 mechanism, but there are only few countries with which we have this 2+2 mechanism. So as of now we have 2+2 mechanism with US, with Russia, with Australia and Japan, right? With only these countries we have 2+2 mechanism, with US, Russia, Australia and Japan only. But recently, Brazil, with Brazil also we have 2+2 mechanism. Remember, this is very very important. This is important for some reasons, that why with what which of the following countries we have 2+2 mechanisms. There may be such question asked, right? So recently with Brazil we have 2+2 mechanism. So we'll try to understand about this as well. So 2+2 ministerial dialogue is a meeting between the foreign minister of a country, foreign minister plus defense minister. So 2+2, for example, if we are having 2+2 dialogue with Brazil, so from Brazil a foreign minister as well as defense minister would be part of would be part of this dialogue, and from India also foreign minister and the defense minister would be part of this 2 plus 2 dialogue. So that is why it is known as 2 plus 2 dialogue, and as of now we have 2 plus 2 dialogue with US, Japan, Australia, Russia and Brazil. Okay, so let's look into India and Brazil relations, right? So it is also very important for us to at least have a brief understanding about India and Brazil relations. So India and Brazil are strategic partners since 2006. Okay, so since 2006, India and Brazil are the strategic partners. One problem that India has been facing with Brazil in general, or the southern South American continent in particular, is that South America is geographically very far to India. Okay, so geographically South America is very far to India, and that is one factor which has been limiting the potential of India Latin America relations or India Brazil relations. Now, in this context, it is very important that India is having such a close relation, such as a strategic partnership with Brazil and 2 plus 2 dialogue with Brazil. So, it is very important bringing together the South American continent or Brazil and India together, right? So because there are number of developing countries in South America, and we all knew that South America is part of the global South. So South America is part of the global South, and because of that reason we have a lot of similarities, a lot of commonalities, and India has been trying to play the role of a leader, uh, particularly to the global south. Because of all these reasons, it is very important for us. We are strategic partners since 2006, and cooperation on multilateral forums between India and Brazil, including United Nations, G20, BRICS grouping, and IPSA. In all these groupings, both India and Brazil are part of. So we are part of United Nations. However, one thing that you need to understand, that United Nations Security Council is not represented the world, right? It has not been representing the world, and it has not reflecting the current realities, the current world realities, because we are living in a multipolar world. Okay, so both India and Brazil are part of United Nations, and we are part of the G20 summit, and we are also part of the BRICS summit, right? So in BRICS, India, Brazil, Russia, China, and South Africa are member countries. And similarly, there is another organization called IBSC, South Africa, Brazil, and India. So therefore, India and Brazil are part of all these different organizations. And with respect to G4, so G4 is a grouping of four countries: Brazil, Germany, India, and Japan. Right? So Brazil, Germany, India, and Japan. So in fact, G4 is a grouping which has been strongly advocating for the expansion of the United Nations Security Council, and G4 has been demanding that all these countries should get United Nations Security Council permanent membership, right? So G4 has been established to support each other's permanent seats in the United Nations Security Council, and it is part of India-led alliance such as International Solar Alliance. Now we all knew that both India and France jointly launched International Solar Alliance in the year 2015 to aim at reducing dependence on fossil fuels, and also substantially increasing the renewable energy, particularly from the solar energy. So because of that reason, India and France have set up International Solar Alliance, and number of countries which are in the tropics and beyond tropics are interested to be part of the International Solar Alliance, where technology will be shared, where finances would be provided, and best practices would also be shared between these member countries. And in fact, the India-Brazil bilateral relationship also enabling India's close cooperation with Mercosur. So Mercosur was actually a regional trading bloc in South America. So you may get a question that what is Mercosur? So Mercosur is a regional trading bloc in South America. So how we have different trading blocs, right? So in South Asian region, Southeast Asian region, in a similar way, for example, Indo-Pacific Economic Framework. So Indo-Pacific Economic Framework is also a trading bloc among the countries in the Indo-Pacific. In a similar way, this Mercosur is also a regional trading bloc in South America. So apart from that, India is the fifth largest trading partner of Brazil in the year 2021, right? So we are the fifth largest trading partner for Brazil. And apart from that, ISRO recently launched Brazil's satellite called Amazonia 1, right? So, ISRO is known for its capabilities of launching satellites, and it is one of the largest and most successful space agencies in the world. And because of that reason, India recently launched Brazil's satellite named Amazonia 1 in the year 2021. And apart from that, so in the arena of security, both India and Brazil are also collaborating and cooperating. And joint statement and action plan for enhancing defense and security cooperation was signed with Brazil in the year 2020. And in fact, India has launched Global Biofuel Alliance during its G20 summit. Global Biofuel Alliance was launched by India during the G20 summit, and in fact, Brazil is the world's second largest producer of biofuels, and Brazil is also part of India-led initiative of Global Biofuel Alliance. And because of all these reasons, Brazil is very, very important. But you need to remember that the second largest producer of biofuels is Brazil. So, right? So Brazil is the second largest producer of biofuel. Now, why again biofuel is important? So it is important to reduce our dependence on again fossil fuels. So we should reduce our dependence on fossil fuels. Why? I have been emphasizing about this time and again that when we burn fossil fuels, they release greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, and greenhouse gases causes global warming, and global warming ultimately resulting in the climate change, right? So it ultimately resulting in climate change, and because of that reason we need to depend on biofuels such as ethanol, right? So they would release less emissions, they are not polluting, right? So we could also reduce levels of pollution, right? So pollution would be having a lot of impacts on the environment and also human health. And because of that particular reason also, we should reduce our dependence on fossil fuels. And secondly, India has been importing 85% of its total fossil fuels from other countries, Russia, Middle East, and other different countries. So in order to reduce our dependence on the fossil fuels, so we have been emphasizing on biofuels because we need to spend a lot of forex reserves on these fossil fuels that we have been importing from other countries, right? So next topic is India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor. Now we'll understand what exactly is this India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor, which is in news, and this is in fact a very, very important topic, right? So this is important in the context that you know U.S. President Joe Biden at one point, agreed that the India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor is responsible for Hamas attack on Israel, right? So it has compelled Hamas to attack Israel. So why? We'll try to understand that later. First, we'll try to understand what is this India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor. So recently, Union Cabinet has approved the Intergovernmental Framework Agreement. So the Intergovernmental Framework Agreement with the United Arab Emirates. So why this Intergovernmental Framework Agreement with the UAE? For the development of India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. In short, it is also known as IMEC. So what is this India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor? So this is a transit network. India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor is a transit network. And this transit network aims to aims at the integration of Asian continent, Europe, and Middle East. Right? So this is the transit corridor, and this transit corridor aims at the integration of Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. And in fact, the India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor, consisting of a railroad, a ship to rail network, and a road to sea, and a road transportation routes and networks. Okay, so that essentially means that it is an integrated transit network. So integrated transit network generally means that roadways, railways, and shipping, so everything becomes part of such a transit network. So all these things become part of the transit network, and because of this particular reason, this is ambitious and this is very important, because this could enhance India's access to Middle East and also the larger Europe as well, because India is a rising power, and for India markets are very very important. For India, supply chain resilience is also very very important. So when we have such a transit networks, the supply chain networks can be effectively managed, can be effectively protected, and we could also reduce our dependence on the traditional players, which are very often vulnerable to the geopolitical shocks. And because of that particular reason, so India has been going for the India Middle East economic corridor. Okay, so there is also an economic corridor called International North South International North-South uh, Transit Corridor. Okay, International North-South Transit Corridor that links Russia with India again. Okay, so a memorandum of understanding was already signed between number of countries who are going to be the important stakeholders in the India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor. So MOU has already signed between India, European Union, France, Germany, Italy, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and US at New Delhi's G20 summit. And uh, after this MOU, this India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor was established, and all the countries would now collaborate to set up this India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor. Okay, so how this international, this India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor would generally passes through. So it would start from Mundra, Kandla, and Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust. So Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust is in Mumbai, and Mundra Kandla ports are in Gujarat. So from the western coast of India, so uh, through shipping route, it would go to UAE, right? So this Jebel Ali, Abu Dhabi ports. So from UAE through a rail network, right? So through rail network, goods would go to Dammam or Ras Al Khair in Saudi Arabia. From again through rail network, it would go to Jordan, and from Jordan to through rail network, it would go to Haifa port in Israel. Okay, so from Israel again, Mediterranean Sea, from Mediterranean Sea to Europe. Okay, so a port called Piraeus port in Europe. So that's how goods would be shipped from India to Europe. So that's how India, Middle East, and Europe are being linked, and that's how Europe is linked with India. So this is India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor, and this could be an alternative for China's Belt and Road initiative as well. Right? I hope you have understood and it is clear. And why Hamas attacked Israel? So Hamas, again, a militant organization which is based on West Bank, right? So a Gaza Strip, sorry, which is based on Gaza Strip, militant organization which is based on Gaza Strip. So why Hamas attacked Israel? So you can see that earlier countries in the Middle East, such as UAE, Saudi Arabia, so they don't have good relations with Israel, right? So they don't have good relations with Israel. But now, this India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor has been linking UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan with Israel. Okay, so but on the other hand, Hamas don't want integration of Israel into the Middle Eastern economy. So Hamas don't want integration of Israel into the Middle Eastern economies, and because of that reason, Hamas attacked Israel. And Hamas also don't want this India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor go through Israel. So they don't want it goes through Israel, or Israel become an important stakeholder or part of this India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor. So I hope you have understood about this. Next is BIMSTEC Charter. So what is this BIMSTEC? So BIMSTEC is a Bay of Bengal initiative for multi-sectoral technical and economic cooperation. So it was established in the year 1997. So we all knew that for South Asian cooperation we have SAARC grouping. Okay, so SAARC is South Asian Association for a Regional Cooperation, right? So, like how ASEAN was established, Association of Southeast Asian Nations was established for cooperation among East Asian and Southeast Asian countries. And in fact, ASEAN is one of the successful organizations, right? So, because ASEAN has led to the integration of East Asia and Southeast Asia. So, in order to get success like ASEAN, SAARC is also established among these South Asian countries, right? So SAARC has been established by the South Asian countries where India is part of it, Pakistan, right? So India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, Maldives, and even Afghanistan. So all these countries are part of the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. So however, the success that ASEAN has achieved is not possible for SAARC, right? So why the success is not possible for SAARC? Because of number of reasons, right? So there are a lot of bilateral, disputes, or bilateral conflicts between number of countries within the SAARC itself, and because of that reason, SAARC never able to, explore its usual potential, and its intra-regional trade is also less than 4% as per World Bank data. So, however, in order to overcome the shortcomings that the countries, in the SAARC have faced, India and other neighboring countries have established BIMSTEC. Okay, so as an alternative to SAARC, India and other its neighboring countries in South Asia have established BIMSTEC. So it is Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation. So in BIMSTEC, Pakistan is not a member, and Afghanistan is also not a member, and Maldives is also not a member, but Myanmar is part of BIMSTEC grouping, right? So earlier, this BIMSTEC grouping was established in the year 1997, but it does not have any charter. Okay, so BIMSTEC have no charter earlier when it was established. Now, what is a charter? So charter is known as a foundational document of any such, any such organization. So such a foundational document outlines the goals, principles, and also the structure of the BIMSTEC grouping, right? So earlier, BIMSTEC does not have or did not have any such foundational document, but recently this BIMSTEC foundational document, which is the charter, has been introduced. However, the charter would come into force once all countries accept the BIMSTEC charter. Right? So earlier, almost all countries which are part of the BIMSTEC grouping, right? So it is very important that you need to know, what are the members of which of, what are the countries which are part of the BIMSTEC group. I have already told you that except India is part of BIMSTEC group. India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, Myanmar. So these countries are part of the BIMSTEC grouping. Okay, so except Nepal, all other countries have already agreed on this BIMSTEC charter. But one important development is that recently lower house of Nepal endorsed the charter of Bay of Bengal for initiative on multi-sectoral, technical and economic cooperation. So which is BIMSTEC, Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral, Technical and Economic Cooperation, right? So this is a foundational document that outlines the goals of BIMSTEC, principles of BIMSTEC and the structure of BIMSTEC group. I hope it is clear for you. And this BIMSTEC charter was signed and adopted in the year 2022 March during the 5th BIMSTEC summit, right? So in fact, BIMSTEC charter also has a provision that it will come into force only after its endorsement by all member countries, right? So all member countries of BIMSTEC already endorsed the BIMSTEC charter except Nepal, but recently lower house of Nepal endorsed the charter on Bay of Bengal initiative for multi-sectoral, technical and economic cooperation, right? So some details with respect to BIMSTEC. BIMSTEC was formed in the year 1997 to enhance regional cooperation on issues such as economic prosperity, social progress, and also dealing with all collective problems that these countries have been facing. So, what are the member countries of BIMSTEC? Bangladesh, Bhutan, Thailand, India, Myanmar, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Thailand. So these are the member countries of BIMSTEC. So apart from Myanmar, Thailand is also a member country of the BIMSTEC grouping. So total, BIMSTEC has 7 countries as its members. So I hope it is clear for you. You have understood about this BIMSTEC. So next is International Criminal Code. So this is also an important topic. So we need to understand. Therefore, we should try to understand what is International Criminal Code and when it was established and what is its mandate. So International Criminal Code. It is the first international permanent court to investigate and even prosecute individuals accused of serious international crimes. There are some crimes which are recognized or which are categorized as serious crimes. Okay, and this International Criminal Court is the first international permanent court to investigate and even prosecute individuals who are being accused of serious international crimes. And in fact, the International Criminal Court's founding treaty is Rome Statute. So Rome Statute is International Criminal Court's founding treaty. That means ICC was founded based on the Rome Statute, and this Rome Statute was adopted in the year 1998 and it entered into force in 2002. Right? So entered into force, that essentially means that ICC was started working from 2002 onwards, because this Rome Statute was adopted in the year 1998. So after that, the member countries need to endorse the Rome Statute, and after the endorsement, the International Criminal Court came into force in the year 2002. And in fact, the Rome Statute grants International Criminal Court jurisdiction over four main crimes. Okay, so these four main crimes are known as serious international crimes. So if anyone committed such serious international crimes, the International Criminal Court would have the jurisdiction to try those individuals. I hope it is clear for you. And when we talk about the membership of the International Criminal Court, so it has 124 members. So International Criminal Court is having 124 members, and in fact, so these are also known as the state parties to the Rome Statute. And if you look at the official language of International Criminal Court, including English, French, Arabic, Chinese, Russian, and Spanish. So these are the official languages of International Criminal Court. And the other important aspect that you need to understand about International Criminal Court is that India is neither adopted nor ratified this Rome Statute. So that effectively means so India is not part of the International Criminal Court. So apart from India, Israel is also not part of the International Criminal Court. US is also not part of it. Russia and even China. So all these countries are not part of the International Criminal Court. Russia, China, US, Israel, and India, right? So ICC's decisions are binding on the parties. So whenever ICC give a judgment, so those judgments are binding on the parties to the Rome Statute. However, ICC does not have its own police force. However, it relies on states' cooperation. Parties to the Rome Statute cooperation to enforce its decisions. It does not have its own police force to enforce its decisions, right? So that is essential for the arrest of individuals and surrender of suspects to International Criminal Court. So I hope you have understood, and will specifically look into the crimes of international, serious international crimes. So what are serious international crimes? For example, genocide is considered as a serious international crime. Now, what is a genocide? So genocide is a specific intent to destroy a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. Now, whatever Pakistan has done in Bangladesh during 1970s was considered as a genocide. Okay, so a specific intent to destroy a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group by killing its members or other means. Right? So again, crimes against humanity, serious crimes of international concern. So another crime is crimes against humanity. For example, serious violations committed through large-scale attack against civilian population. And five forms listed in the Rome Statutes include offenses like murder, rape, imprisonment, enforced disappearances, and enslavement, torture, apartheid. So all these things are considered as crimes against humanity. Okay. And similarly, war crimes can also be tried by the International Criminal Court. So war crimes are grave breaches of Geneva Convention. So Geneva Convention deal with the war and war crimes. In case of a breach of Geneva Convention, it can be tried under the International Criminal Court. It includes the use of child soldiers, killing or torture of civilians, prisoners of war, international attacks against hospitals, historic monuments, etc. Right? So recently, South Africa filed a complaint against Vladimir Putin in the International Court of Justice. So uh, criminal court, sorry, International Court of Justice is different because International Court of Justice is part of the UN system, but International Criminal Court is not part of the United Nations. International Criminal Court has no relation with the United Nations. And in fact, South Africa has also filed a complaint against Israel as well in the International Criminal Court. So all these crimes are considered as war crimes and they can be tried in the International Criminal Court. And other types of crimes are crime of aggression, such as use of armed forces by a state against the sovereignty, integrity, and independence of other state. Right? So, because of all these reasons that these different types of crimes are being part of the International Criminal Court, and there is a possibility of different countries can be sued, individuals can be sued, or complaints can be filed against them. Some countries are never part of International Criminal Court, and those countries are India, Israel, USA, Russia, and China. I hope it is clear for you. Next is Indus X initiative marks 1 year anniversary. So we'll understand what is this Indus X initiative that has marked 1 year anniversary. So India US defense acceleration ecosystem. So right, so Indus X is in use. What is Indus X? So this is India US defense acceleration ecosystem. So that was launched in the year 2023 June. So Indus X is an initiative to build a defense innovation bridge between two countries. So it could build defense innovation bridge between two countries under the initiative on critical and emerging technologies. Initiative on critical and emerging technologies. Remember that this initiative on critical and emerging technologies is also very important because this is an initiative between US and India, right? So there may be a question that initiative on critical and emerging technologies is a technology collaboration between which of the following countries, right? So US and India have jointly launched this initiative on emerging and critical technologies. Okay, so in fact, this Indus X initiative is an innovation bridge and it is under the initiative of initiative on critical and emerging technologies. So in fact this Indus X facilitate partnership among US and other Indian defense companies. So what are the achievements so far under this Indus X? So commercial collaborations between the defense companies of two countries, uh, you know uh, where there is a huge potential to work on a number of areas. For example, defense domains such as intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, and even semiconductor. So, in all these different domains, India and US have been working as part of this Indus X initiative that is under the initiative on critical and emerging technologies, right? So, in fact, both of these countries under Indus X initiative have been exploring the modalities for joint innovation and even funding between the two countries. And Indus X Gurukul has also been launched under Indus X initiative. And Indus X Gurukul is a hybrid information series for US and India defense startups. Okay, so this is a hybrid information series for US and Indian defense startups, that is Indus X Gurukul, right? So next is a group of seven or a G7 grouping. So we'll try to understand some important details with respect to the G7 grouping as well. So member countries of the G7 grouping, when it was established, what is the mandate of the G7 countries, and why G7 is important. So we'll try to understand all such details. So G7 is an informal grouping. So it is not a formal grouping. This is an informal meeting of world's seven most industrialized countries, right? So world's seven most industrialized countries informal meeting is known as G7 grouping or group of seven, right? So it is a G7 is an informal grouping of advanced democracies that meet annually to coordinate on global economic policies and also address the transnational issues. So transnational issues are those issues which a cause of concern for a number of countries. They are not just limited to one single country. And in fact, these transnational issues including migration, climate change, and conflicts as well, human rights violations, civil war, so all these things would be discussed by the group of seven. So group of seven is an informal grouping of seven most industrialized and advanced democracies in the world. However, the G7 was established in the year 1975 in response to economic and financial cooperation due to the energy crisis. So energy crisis took place in the 1970s, and in response to the energy crisis, these G7 countries, the group of seven countries, have come together and they felt the need to discuss about the economic and financial cooperation between all these countries, and because of that reason, it was formed. In fact, earlier Russia was also part of this grouping. At that point of time, it was known as G8 grouping, but Russia's annexation of Crimea has led to, Russia being expelled by other member countries as part of this particular grouping, and after that, G8 became G7. Okay, so in fact, G7 lacks a permanent structure, right? So as of now, G7 lacks a permanent structure, and G7 also lacks a foundational document such as a charter, and because of that reason, it is known as an informal grouping. And in fact, its rotating presidency sets the agenda annually. For example, one year Britain may be part of, Britain is the president of G7 summit, and next year France would be the president. So the presidencies of these G7 group of countries would set their own agenda, and they lack any permanent structure. And that's why it is known as an informal grouping. And in fact, it has a seven member countries. They are most industrialized and advanced democracies as well. Now, one significant aspect of G7 summit, even though India is not part of the G7 summit, in recent times, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is being invited as a guest of honor to these G7 summits. So almost all countries have started inviting Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This trend was started by Donald Trump. So when Donald Trump was the president of US, so he started inviting Indian leadership as well to this G7 summit, even though India is not part of the summit. So there are seven member countries. US is part of G7, followed by Germany, Canada, UK, Japan, Italy, France. So all these seven countries are part of the G7 group of countries. So however, as I have already told you that Russia joined this G7 in the year 1998, and after that G7 became a G8, but Russia was expelled from this G8 grouping in the year 2014 after Russia taking over Crimea from Ukraine, and then this G8 group became G7 grouping. And in fact, European Union is not a member of G7, but in fact attends the annual summit of the G7 group of countries. So I hope you have understood this. G7 is also important, right? So if you look at the some data with respect to the G7 group of countries, why it is important, why they are called as most industrialized countries or advanced democracies. So there are some reasons. So G7 is contributed to the 40 percentage of the global economy. So despite there are seven countries, so G7, you know, G7's total share in the global economy is 40%, and G7 also contributes to 10 percentage of the world's population. And in fact, 36 percentage of global power generation capacity is from these seven countries alone, and 30 percentage of the global energy demand from the G7 countries, and even 25 percentage of the global energy related carbon dioxide emissions are also from these G7 countries. So this is some data with respect to the G7 group of countries. And if you look at the top five economies in the world, so in among those top five economies, three economies are from the G7 alone, right? So USA, a top economy, and apart from USA, Japan and Germany. So Japan and Germany are also so top five economies. So other two economies are China and India. So as of now, USA is a top economy. So USA is the largest economy in the world in terms of GDP, followed by China and followed by Japan and then Germany and India, right? So they are top five economies in terms of GDP. US, China, Japan, Germany, and also India. So they are a top five economies in terms of GDP. Right? So it is believed that India set to overtake Germany very soon to become the fourth largest economy in the world. So India is going to become the fourth largest economy, and after that, India would also overtake Japan. So if India becomes the $5 trillion economy. So as of now, India is not a $5 trillion economy, but it is anticipated in future that India would turn into a $5 trillion economy, so that would lead to India overtaking Japan as the third largest economy in the world. Next is free movement regime with Myanmar, and this free movement regime is also in use in recent times. So we'll try to understand what exactly is this free movement regime and why it is in news. So recently, the Indian government has decided to end this free movement regime with Myanmar, particularly because of number of reasons. So as of now, Myanmar is under the military rule. Myanmar is under military rule, and in fact, it is also very important that you need to look into the map that what are the Indian states which have been sharing its borders with Myanmar. So Arunachal Pradesh has been sharing its borders with Myanmar, and Manipur has also been sharing its borders, and Nagaland and also Mizoram sharing its borders. So four Indian states which have been sharing their borders with Myanmar, right? So what is this free movement regime? So free movement regime permit the individuals. So for example, this is India Myanmar border. Imagine that this is India Myanmar border. So this is Myanmar, and this is the northeastern part of India. So the free movement regime permit individuals who are residing the radius of 16 kilometers both sides, right? The radius of 16 kilometer, they can easily or they can freely go and come, or they can easily traverse this border between India and Myanmar. So that is what is known as free movement regime, and they don't require any document or any visa, right? So without any documentation, without any visa, people who are living within the 16 kilometer of radius, so they can easily traverse the India Myanmar border. So that is what is known as the free movement regime. And in fact, India has formalized this free movement regime in the year 2018 as part of India's Act East policy. So earlier we used to have the Look West policy. This Look West policy was launched by the former Prime Minister of India, PV Narasimha Rao. So former Prime Minister of India, PV Narasimha Rao, started this Look West policy. So Look East policy. Look East policy, and later this Look East policy was transformed into Act East policy by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government. However, in the year 2018, this free movement regime has been formalized. However, so the free movement regime has been conceptualized due to the following reasons. What are the reasons? Because of strong ethnic and familial ties across the border. So, within the 60 kilometer radius, the people living on each side of India and Myanmar, they have strong ethnic and familial ties. And this particular border was demarcated by the British in 1826. So it was demarcated by the British in 1826, effectively divided people of same ethnicity and culture into two nations without actually having their consent, right? So it was demarcated way back by the British government without the consent of the people who are living on each side of India and Myanmar. So apart from that, the region has a long history of trans-border commerce through customs and border hearts as well. But why Indian government has decided to end this free movement regime with Myanmar is because of number of reasons. Now, Myanmar is under the military rule, and there is a large scale of violence and civil war like situation in Myanmar, and that has been resulted in illegal immigration, right? So illegal immigration of people into the northeastern part of India. And apart from illegal immigration, uh, one very important concern is that Rohingya Muslim minorities are also entering into the northeastern part of India because of this free movement regime. And insurgency is also another major problem. And there are a lot of insurgent groups which are based out in Myanmar. So they are just hiding in Myanmar as well. So that is another reason. And apart from that, drug trafficking is also another major reason for Indian government to close this free movement regime or end this free movement regime. So all these reasons have compelled Indian government to end this free movement regime with Myanmar. So you can see here, so we have been sharing a long boundary with Myanmar, particularly states like Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram have been sharing their borders with Myanmar, right? So they have been sharing their respective borders with Myanmar and other aspects of India-Myanmar relations, including commerce and economic relations. We have the bilateral investment and promotion treaty with Myanmar, and double taxation avoidance agreement also signed with Myanmar. And in fact, both India and Myanmar are part of India-ASEAN Trade in Goods Agreement. And apart from that, Myanmar is also part of the BIMSTEC grouping, Bay of Bengal initiative for multi-sectoral and technical and economic cooperation. And we have a lot of commercial projects, connectivity projects with Myanmar, particularly Kaladan Multimodal Transit and Transport Project with Myanmar, and India, Myanmar, Thailand Trilateral Highway. So this is important, Kaladan Multimodal Project with Myanmar as well as India, Myanmar, Thailand Trilateral Highway. And apart from this, so we have several multilateral, regional and sub-regional cooperation as well. So both countries are members of Bay of Bengal for initiative on multi-sectoral, technical and economic cooperation, and also Ganga Mekong cooperation as well. So Myanmar was also given the status of observer of SARC in the year 2008. So remember, Myanmar is not a part of the SARC grouping. Rather, it has the status of observer in the SARC grouping. So when we talk about the defense cooperation, joint military exercises are regularly conducted. So India-Myanmar bilateral army exercise IMBAX is aimed at building and promoting closer relations with the armies of two countries. So you have to remember that IMBAX is a joint military exercise. Myanmar is not part of the SARC grouping, rather it is having observer status. Both India and Myanmar are members of BIMSTEC and Mekong Ganga cooperation as well. And Kaladan multimodal project, a connectivity project between India and Myanmar, and also a connectivity project called India Myanmar Thailand Trilateral Highway. So you need to remember these important aspects. Next is about the expansion of the BRICS grouping. So we'll try to understand about this as well because this is also important. Recently, five new members, namely Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates have joined the BRICS grouping as a full-time permanent members. As of now, when we talk about the BRICS grouping, there are 5 countries. So 5 countries which are part of the BRICS grouping. So Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. So however, recently it has been decided to expand the BRICS grouping by including few more countries to it. So therefore, 5 more countries have joined this BRICS grouping. So 5 more countries including Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and United Arab Emirates. So they joined this BRICS grouping as permanent members, right? So it is very important that you need to remember what are the existing members of BRICS and who are the new members of this BRICS grouping. So you should understand this because this is very, very important. So the members, Iran became part of it, Saudi Arabia become part of it, UAE, Egypt, and Ethiopia. So all these countries became part of the BRICS grouping. So mostly in this particular region itself. So however, Argentina was also allowed to become part of the BRICS grouping, but it did not become part of it because there was elections in Argentina. A new government was came into power. A new government decided that it will not become part of the BRICS grouping because BRICS is very often seen as anti-West. It is being viewed as anti-West. So Argentina don't want to antagonize the West, and because of that reason, Argentina's new government don't want it to become part of the BRICS grouping. For example, Iran is having a conflictual or confrontational relations with US. Similarly, China, Russia, right? So because of that reason, BRICS is being viewed as anti-West. Now, some details with respect to the BRICS grouping. So the BRICS term was first coined by British economist Jim O'Neill. So Jim O'Neill was a British economist and he first coined the term BRICS. And in fact, he used the acronym BRIC. And he used it for the first time in the year 2001. So remember that earlier, South Africa, when BRICS was first formed, South Africa was not part of the BRICS grouping. So it was earlier used to be called as just BRIC. So, however, later South Africa in the year 2010 became part of the BRICS, this four-member grouping, and then it became BRICS. Okay, so it was coined by a British economist Jim O'Neill, and he used this acronym BRICS or BRIC for the first time in the year 2001. So, however, BRIC started functioning as a formal grouping on the margins of G8 Outreach Summit in the year 2006, right? So, in 2006, from 2006, BRIC started working as a formal grouping, and the first BRIC summit was held in Russia at a place called Yekaterinburg. So in the year 2009, the first BRIC summit was held in 2009, and in 2010, South Africa became part of the BRICS grouping. And recently, in 2024 January, few more members have become part of this BRICS grouping. So don't confuse with all these years. So BRIC term was coined by British economist Jim O'Neill in the year 2001, and after that, on the sidelines of G7 summit, so these BRIC countries decided to engage as a formal grouping in the year 2006. So they decided to become establish BRIC, and they decided to engage as a formal grouping of BRIC in 2006. And in the year 2009, the first BRIC summit was held in Yekaterinburg, Russia, and then in 2010, South Africa also became part of this BRICS grouping, but recently 5 more member countries have become part of the BRICS. So that has led to the expansion of BRICS. So some initiatives under the BRICS, a new development bank, which is also known as NDB, established in Shanghai, and a contingent reserve arrangement. So that was also created to provide the mutual financial support and medical cooperation under UFA declaration or UFA declaration. So understand one thing, that New Development Bank is an initiative of the BRICS grouping. So it is the initiative of the BRICS grouping, and the headquarter of New Development Bank is located in Shanghai. And under New Development Bank, contingent reserve arrangement has also been created for the mutual financial support among all the BRICS countries. And in fact, under UFA declaration, so that was adopted to prevent the spread of infectious disease. So all these BRICS member countries would cooperate in the medical domain as well. And apart from that, BRICS Science and Technology and Innovation Framework Program has also been established in the year 2015. And this Science and Technology Innovation Framework has helped to facilitate common response to the COVID-19, and that has also helped these countries effectively deal with the COVID-19 pandemic as well. And in fact, BRICS Payment Task Force has also been set up. So it is a step towards cooperation between central banks and other financial institutions on national payment systems. And BRICS Rapid Information Security Channel. So that promotes exchange of information on cyber threats, because a cyber threat or cyber crime is one of the major challenge that all the countries have been facing. So in order to deal with the cyber crimes or cyber threats, BRICS Rapid Information and Security Channel has also been established. And in fact, all these different mechanisms would work, and they would also result in a comprehensive collaboration between all these BRICS member countries. Right, so you have understood this. And next is Weimar Triangle. So we'll try to understand what exactly is this Weimar Triangle and why it is in news. So recently, the foreign ministers of Germany, Poland, France, so they've met to revive this Weimar Triangle. Okay, so foreign ministers of Germany, Poland, and France have met to revive this Weimar Triangle. And what is this Weimar Triangle? So Weimar Triangle is a regional group, and it was created in the year 1991. Okay, like how we are having regional groups across different parts of the world. So this Weimar Triangle is also a regional group that was created in the year 1991 after the disintegration of the USSR. So USSR was disintegrated after 1990s, and after that this Weimar Triangle as a regional group was established to develop shared vision for Europe and also forge closer ties between these three countries' societies. What are those three countries? Germany, Poland, and France. Right? So forge a closer ties between these three countries' societies. Poland, France, and Germany. And in fact, the triangle was initially a key forum for supporting German-Polish reconciliation after World War II. Okay, so it was initially a key forum for supporting German and Polish reconciliation after World War II. Now, even though it was formally established in the year 1991, it was even existing during the Second World War also. That has played a very important role in supporting German and Polish reconciliation after World War II. And in fact, the group takes its name from a city of Weimar, which is in Germany, where initial meeting took place. The initial meeting of this Weimar triangle took place in Germany. Okay, so I hope you know or you have understood about this. And in fact, it is a grouping of France, Poland, and Germany. So they've come together to develop a shared vision for Europe and also forge a closer ties between these three different countries and their societies. Weimar is a name of a city in Germany. Okay, so they would cooperate on number of different areas. So a forum of dialogue and cooperation. Okay, so next is mission aspects. So what is mission aspects? So we'll try to understand about this as well, because this is also important. So mission aspects. Recently, European Union has launched this mission aspects. Okay, so to protect Red Sea vessels from Iran-backed Houthi attacks. Now, as I've already told you that this Houthis, a Shia militant group which is based out in Yemen. Okay, so I hope it is clear. So this is the location of Yemen, very close to the Red Sea. So this is Red Sea. Okay, and this is Yemen, and Houthi is a Shia militant group in Yemen. So, however, Red Sea is very very important for global shipping, but because Red Sea has been linking, Red Sea has been linking Europe with East Asia, East Asia, Middle East, Southeast Asia, South Asia, and larger Indo-Pacific. Okay, so for trade and commerce, for shipping, Indo-Pacific region is also very very important. And when US and Europe ships have been entering into the Red Sea through the Suez Canal of Egypt. Now, when they are in the Red Sea, increased attacks on those Western ships by these militant groups such as Houthis, and so there are other, for example, Hamas. Again, that is a militant organization that is based out of Gaza Strip. Houthis, they are based out of Yemen, and there's also another militant organization, Lebanon. In Lebanon also there is another militant organization, right? So all these different groups have been attacking ships which have been passing through the uh, you know Red Sea. Okay, so they have been passing through the Red Sea. So recently, European Union has launched mission Aspides to protect Red Sea vessels from Iran-backed Houthi attacks. So Houthis are very often viewed as the proxies of Iran, right? They are working on behalf of Iran. So in order to protect the ships which have been passing through Red Sea, European Union has launched mission Aspides. It aims to preserve freedom of navigation, provide maritime situational awareness, and also accompany ships and protect them from a possible multimodal rockets at sea. So this is the objective of mission Aspides that has been launched by the European Union. And in fact, the area of operation as part of mission Aspides will include Bab el Mandab, right? So this is Bab el Mandab. This region is known as Bab el Mandab, and then Strait of Hormuz, and then as well as international waters in Red Sea, Gulf of Aden. This is Gulf of Aden, Arabian Sea, Gulf of Oman, and Arabian. So this is the Strait of Hormuz. So this region is known as Strait of Hormuz and Gulf of Aden. Okay, so and Gulf of Oman, Arabian Sea. So in all these areas, European Union's mission Aspide will work to protect its ships from Iran-backed Houthi militant group. Okay, so there's also another militant organization which is based out in Lebanon, and in fact that has also been attacking Israel, and that has also been attacking the ships as well, right? So the next topic is Information Fusion Center for Indian Ocean region. Okay, so what is this Information Fusion Center for Indian Ocean region? That we'll try to understand that as well, right? So this Information Fusion Center for Indian Ocean region was established in the year 2018, based at IMAC. So Indian, Maritime, so IMAC, that was hosted by Indian Navy recently. And in fact, this IMAC jointly administered by Indian Navy and Indian Coast Guard. Okay, so this is jointly administered by both Indian Navy as well as Indian Coast Guard as well. Because Indian Ocean in recent times has been facing a number of threats. For example, drug trafficking is a threat. Drug trafficking, or you could also say human trafficking is also, and illegal fishing, piracy is also another major problem in the Indian Ocean, and even terrorism also. Terrorism. So Indian Ocean region has been facing all these different challenges. So because of that reason, in order to tackle all those challenges, this Information Fusion Center in the Indian Ocean region was established in the year 2018, right? So it is a jointly administered by Indian Navy and Indian Coast Guard. So what is the aim of this Information Fusion Center? So strengthening maritime security in the region by building a common coherent maritime situation picture using wide shipping agreements. And in fact, the regions covered as part of the Indian Ocean region Information Fusion Center. So Indian Ocean region and adjoining seas are part of it, and 67 linkages in 25 countries have been established to secure the global commons for a peaceful, stable, and a prosperous region towards the well-being of all. And in fact, the Information Fusion Center of the Indian Ocean region hosts 12 international liaison officers from different partner countries. So those partner countries including Australia, France, Italy, Japan, Maldives, Mauritius, Myanmar, Seychelles, Singapore, UK, USA, and Sri Lanka. So these different countries are part of the Indian Ocean region Information Fusion Center, right? So next is, so recently, Zimbabwe plans to cull 200 elephants amid a drought-like situation. So there may be a question that could be asked recently: which of the following countries decided to cull 200 elephants because of drought? The answer is Zimbabwe. So we'll try to understand about this as well. So in response to a severe drought that occurred in an African country, Zimbabwe, so it has decided to cull or kill 200 elephants to help tackle the food shortages that it has been facing, right? So in fact, this is a very difficult and tough decisions taken by the Zimbabwe government, because as of now the country's elephant population has has breached its carrying capacity, and the elephant population is also too large for its environment to support, because every environment has carrying capacity. So if it breaches, crosses the carrying capacity, it would become a problematic for the biodiversity. So sustenance of biodiversity, it's not easy if its population increases than the threshold level. So because of that reason, there is an urgent need to provide food for the people. However, Zimbabwe as of now is having 84,000 elephants, but its land can only comfortably support 45,000 elephants. And similarly, earlier also, Namibia, another African country, has also decided to cull, some animals, some elephants, So Zimbabwe's decision is also similar to actions taken by Namibia, where they have also started culling animals due to drought and food shortages. So regularly in the African continent, such things happen because of extreme drought, lack of rainfall, and extreme levels of poverty. However, maintaining and sustaining biodiversity is very important. So, in order to sustain and maintain biodiversity, there is a need for the population which is at the sustainable levels. However, excessive population would threaten the biodiversity, and because of that reason, Zimbabwe and Namibia have decided to cull elephant population. And in fact, the reason for the worst drought in most of the African countries is because of El Nino. So we all know that El Nino is associated with drought-like conditions and La Nina is associated with floods in different parts of the world, right? So I hope you have understood this. And next is China's anaconda strategy adopted recently against Taiwan. So we'll try to understand what exactly is this anaconda strategy that was adopted by Taiwan, that was adopted by China against Taiwan. So recently, there are military tensions between Taiwan and China. So these military tensions have been further growing, and in fact, China, on the context, in the context of the military tensions between China and Taiwan, started using a new strategy called anaconda strategy, right? So it has decided to use the strategy called anaconda strategy. And in fact, China has designed this anaconda strategy to wear down Taiwan and also limit its actions while China increases its military presence around the island. So China has actually increased its military presence around Taiwan. It has surrounded Taiwan and there is increased military presence around Taiwan and gradually wear down Taiwan and limit Taiwan's actions. And what is this anaconda strategy that has been adopted by China? So the anaconda strategy is a slow and a squeezing tactic, a slowly squeeze Taiwan. So similar to how anaconda snake wraps around its prey before actually striking it. So in a similar way, what China has been doing. So China has the presence around Taiwan and slowly squeezing tactic. So that is anaconda strategy. So China uses this strategy to weaken Taiwan gradually. So it wanted to weaken Taiwan gradually so that Taiwan would never challenge China. And in fact, China often talks about the one China policy. So, as per this one China policy, if any country wanted to maintain diplomatic relations with China, it must respect the one China policy. As per one China policy, China says that Taiwan is also part of China and no other country should have diplomatic relations with Taiwan. This is what China's one China policy says. Right? So China still believes that Taiwan is part of it, and one day China is going to occupy Taiwan or take over Taiwan. Right? So China uses this strategy to weaken Taiwan gradually. Instead of launching an immediate attack, so China don't want it to launch an immediate attack on Taiwan because that could result in a global response against China. Okay, because China has become more assertive, more aggressive against China. So because of that reason, it wanted to slowly weaken Taiwan. Okay, so China focuses on surrounding Taiwan and weakening its defenses through military drills as well as the psychological pressure on Taiwan. So next is terminal So a THAAD missile, so THAAD means terminal high altitude area defense missile. Remember about THAAD, there was already a question that was asked by UPSC in prelims examination 2021. So United States, so THAAD missile belong to US, and on the other hand S-400 missile belongs to Russia. So United States has decided to send terminal high altitude defense missile system to Israel. So recently US has decided to give these THAAD missiles to Israel on its fight against Hamas. Okay. So this is part of the US promise to help strengthen Israel's defense. So US wanted to strengthen Israel's defense, and this is part of US promise to help strengthen Israel's defense, especially its rising tensions with Iran, because Iran has also been challenging, Israel, including recent missile attacks by Israel, by Iran on Israel as well. And apart from that, so we need to understand some important facts with respect to THAAD missile defense system. So terminal high altitude area defense is an advanced missile defense system. It is one of the most advanced missile defense systems in the world. So that is designed to intercept and even destroy the enemy missiles, right? For example, imagine that an enemy missile has been coming, and this third missile defense system can actually intercept those missiles, and it can even fire a counter missile, and that missile could destroy this enemy missile. First it could intercept and then destroy the enemy missiles during the last part of their flight. And in fact, third missile usually works using a technology called hit and kill, meaning it directly hits the missile in the air itself and then destroy it, rather than using any explosives. So that is hit to kill, uh, you know missile defense system of THAAD. It belongs to US, and US recently decided to give these THAAD missiles to Israel. Okay. Next is, Jordan becomes the first country to successfully eliminate leprosy in the world. So that is why it is important and it is significant. And Jordan is also a country which is in the Middle East. Okay, so it is also very close to Israel. So recently, World Health Organization has officially recognized that Jordan became the first country in the world to eliminate leprosy successfully. It has successfully eliminated the leprosy disease. Leprosy is a bacterial disease. So for more than 20 years, Jordan has not seen any cases of indigenous leprosy. So that means in last 20 years there were no cases that originated within the country. And what is leprosy? So leprosy is also known as Hansen's disease. Right? So it is also known as Hansen's disease, and it is a long-lasting infectious disease which is being caused by a bacterium called Mycobacterium leprae. So Mycobacterium leprae causes this leprosy disease. And in fact, it also infects skin, nerves, and sometimes other body parts as well. And leprosy is one of the neglected tropical diseases. We have discussed about the neglected tropical diseases in our previous classes, and leprosy is also neglected tropical disease. That means enough medicine and enough global attention is not required, so not given to such diseases. Okay, so each year over 2 lakh new cases are reported in more than 120 countries, but Jordan became the first country to eliminate leprosy successfully. Right, so that's all in this lecture, and thank you so much. So if you like our lectures, please subscribe our YouTube channel and also hit the like button. Okay, thank you.